Tell me about working at Highclere Castle, because it's the most magnificent building, isn't it?
It is, and what's been wonderful for this series is that Highclere is probably the most important character in the show. Downton Abbey really is about the preservation of this estate that my character is sort of notionally in charge of. And so it becomes a very vivid character because it's the future of it that's in jeopardy. And what I loved about filming there was that even though it's a castle, it feels like a home. It's a working home. Lord and Lady Carnarvon had to sort of tiptoe around our dust sheets while we were filming. It must have been a nightmare for them. But it's it's a big house, but it's not a sort of unmanageable castle. You don't feel like you're going to get lost in endless miles of corridors. And we filmed in probably 8 or 10 of the principal rooms. And it just feels rather homely, which I think comes across in the series. It doesn't feel daunting and inhibiting. It feels like a place where a family lives, with all their attendant, servants and staff and so on. So it's a glorious place to film. It's blooming cold as well sometimes. We've started filming in March and we were all in sort of thick puffer jackets because it's quite exposed up there as well. It has a sort of wind rushing across Hampshire towards it. And we all, as we huddled around with our thermos mugs and everything, we were saying, can't wait for June when we'll be in shorts and t-shirts and well, apart from the fact we were in thick tweed costumes. When we weren't filming, we were indeed by June sitting there in rugs and having picnics at lunchtime. It was glorious. So we covered all the range of weather, but and luckily whenever we needed to film outside, it was stunningly beautiful. And there was a week when with the ash cloud, so there was no planes flying over, and the skies were clear, crystal clear. I remember Maggie and I were waiting for a shot, and just looking out at that stunning view, and her saying, there's nowhere in the world I would rather be on the days like this, particularly with no planes going over. So it gave you a glimpse of what it must have been like back in the day. But it is a vivid character in the show, and it's a wonderful place to work.
And the Carnarvons did actually leave a lot of their furniture and artefacts in the rooms for you to use.
That's right. There was one day when a chair went and started tipping over. One of the legs started giving way, and I thought, oh my God, that's probably some ancient family heirloom. Luckily, it was one of our rented chairs. But no, they were very good, and they have their diligent staff with their beady eyes were very much on hand to check that we didn't move things, and break anything. And to my knowledge, we didn't do too much damage.
No, you didn't. But there must have been a sharp intake of breath when a spark wanders by with a stepladder. And
that's right. No. I have to say, I was very impressed with the crew that all the right stuff was put on the floor, and no camera legs scraped across mahogany or anything like that. So I think we were quite well behaved. The Carnarvons are still talking to us anyway.
This is a sumptuous period drama, but what really surprised me of watching it, of how gloriously funny it is. What a fabulous script.
Well, Julian Fellowes does have this tremendous capacity, as he had with Gosford Park, of writing three-dimensional characters. There are no sort of stock goodies and baddies, and everyone, even if they're well-intentioned, have their flaws. And he does write with tremendous wit, and particularly for characters like Maggie Smith, who I know he could write reams of stuff for her, because she does deliver with cut glass brilliance. And so when you're in a scene with her, you just sit back and let them just pour out of her mouth. So no, it is very funny, and there's some great warm humour as well as witty lines, and so it's a pleasure to work on a script like this. When I first read it, I couldn't put it down simply for that reason, that the characters are so engaging and funny as well.
Interesting period of history, though, isn't it?
It is, and of course hindsight's a great tool that we have. But we opened in 1912 with the sinking of the Titanic, and we end on the eve of the First World War. And you sort of, you think of what the seismic change is about to happen. And of course, this is the last era, the last, as it were, golden era of the great houses like that. And between the wars, there was a resurgence, but of course, some of the great houses gradually declined thereafter, and particularly after the First World War, there was a whole generation that, of course, was lost in houses like this, and everyone was affected. So yes, there's a sort of slightly warm glow over that era as we look back. Of course, it's not without its own difficulties, but it's an era that I think we love dipping into because it does seem to be a golden age.
Now, people remember TV's upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
For those people that don't know much about this, is this just a posh version?
No, it's not. I suppose really you could say, for those who've seen Gosford Park, it's sort of Gosford Park in a longer form without the murder. It's really as Julian Fellowes himself has said, it really, apart from sort of cop shows and hospital shows, there are very few environments in which you can see legitimately or credibly an entire social spectrum in one place coexisting. And so these great country houses really did have the whole panoply of social structure, from the kitchen maid to the Dowager Duchess, and so I think that's really what sort of appeals about it. Really, just the social range. And you follow, it's not really, there's no sort of lead characters, it's a genuine ensemble. By the end of the first episode, you've been introduced to something like 15 or 16 characters who will reappear in the following episodes. And you get to know them very quickly, and you get to care about them very quickly, I think. And you can't wait to see them when they return in each segment of the story. So I think, without sounding glib, there really is something for everyone, because you do see every corner of society reflected. It's the world in microcosm, really, in this show, and Julian captures it effortlessly.